Let me start by saying thank you very much for inviting me to this groundbreaking conference that I think will help put Circassia back on the map of Europe. Despite Moscow's attempts to eradicate your nation, your state since the 19th century genocide, Circassia survived and it will be reborn as Russia weakens and ruptures. I would like to outline the regional and international ramifications of an independent Circassia, and I think 4 goals are essential to gain international recognition and to develop political and economic relations. National unity, an understanding with other nations in the new Circassia, a regional format of coexistence between the new state entities, and an effective campaign for international status. So let me begin with the first. National unity is essential among all Circassians Adigeans, including among all tribes or sub-ethnic groups from all republics currently within Russia and regions, and between locals and the diaspora. Young people in particular must be involved in the movement for independence, and constant attempts by Moscow to divide and control the Circassian nation must be fully exposed and countered. They do indicate, however, a profound Muscovite fear of Circassian national unity, given the history of determined resistance to Russian imperialism and colonialism. Regarding the second goal, it is essential for Circassians to pursue a process of inclusiveness and understanding with other nations, especially the Balkar, Karachay, Cossack, Russian, and other peoples in the existing republics and regions. As Imperial Russia dissolves, Moscow will try to intensify its divisive policies by pitting nations against each other, including in the North Caucasus. Circassia must avoid falling into that trap. We have already witnessed the implementation of such a Muscovite policy between Ingushetia and North Ossetia, between Ingushetia and Chechnya, and between Chechnya and Dagestan, whereby Moscow exacerbates local grievances and political ambitions to prevent the emergence of a united front against the empire. The framers of a new Circassian constitution and administrative structure must address all potential historical, territorial, and resource disputes to preempt Moscow's destructive strategy. And representatives of all resident nations must be included in the process of state building, institution building, and electoral representation. The administrative structure of the new Circassia must be developed and address all national aspirations in a spirit of dialogue and compromise. In some cases, existing disputes may actually provide opportunities to involve neutral outside mediators, whether individual countries or multinational organizations. This in itself will help foster the development of international relations for Circassia. The third goal in the broader North Caucasian region is the establishment of a format for coexistence between new state entities. No one can be certain how many new states will emerge from the collapsing Russia and what exact political structures each will develop. However, one administrative format that may have wide appeal is the establishment of a pan-regional or pan-republican confederal state that will have a sizable population and encompass a broader territory between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. The foundations and principles of such a confederal state as the potential successor of the mountaineer republic of the post-Tsarist period must be discussed. A power vacuum could emerge in the North Caucasus much faster than we are currently anticipating, as the central government in Moscow weakens or is disrupted through power struggles, mutinies, and coups as Russia's losses in Ukraine continue to mount. Among the priorities for debate on the liberation agenda will be the role of the current Moscow-appointed governors in the transition to independence, the holding of national elections and referenda on questions of statehood, the drafting of republican and confederal constitutions, the involvement and return of the large North Caucasian diaspora, particularly the Circassian diaspora, in the development of their home countries, the administrative structure of the emerging confederation, and the powers and prerogatives of each republic or entity within the confederation, if that is what is decided. Such a planning process can itself engender cooperation across national, ethnic, linguistic, regional, and religious lines, both in exile and on the ground in the North Caucasus. It is also important to work with representatives of other nations seeking liberation from Russia, especially the Middle Volga republics or the proposed Idel-Ural Federation, as well as the South Siberian and Far Eastern republics and regions, to share experiences and strategies for state construction and international connections. And lastly, the much needed fourth goal is an international campaign for achieving status through interstate recognition. The new Circassian state will confront the enormous task of reconstruction and economic stabilization, and will need international diplomatic and economic support. International assistance is more likely to be forthcoming for states that are able to ensure a relatively stable and predictable domestic, political, social, and legal environment, or those that possess resources and industries that can attract foreign investment. This will also necessitate a stable regional climate and a broader market than simply that of one republic. The key here is not only to communicate what the new Circassia is rejecting, in other words, Muscovite imperialism, but also to outline the advantages of Circassian independence, both for itself and for the broader Caucasian, Black Sea, and European regions. A message of success must accompany the message of liberation. Representatives from Circassia must pursue contacts with neighboring or nearby countries, especially Turkey and Georgia, as they will be directly affected by developments in the North Caucasus. And there are, of course, deep historical connections between these regions. And this will also help to develop and implement a formula to settle the future of Abkhazia and South Ossetia once Russian imperial influence is eliminated. Let me conclude by saying that there's clearly a lot of work ahead, but you have a noble historical cause for the Circassian people in finally overthrowing the chains of Muscovy and rebuilding your state and giving your nation a secure and prosperous future. Thank you again for inviting me.